The Sisters of Dorley by Alyson Greaves. Read by Robin Nolan. Chapter 20. All the Little Pieces of Me. 2019, December 2nd, Monday. Stefani, Stefini. There aren't that many variations on the name that she can find, and most of the ones that deviate do so mostly in the unique and creative abuse they can heap on the letter E. And she scrolled through the name list on the network and hopped into the web and clicked at random baby naming websites. Nothing. Besides, Steph just fits. She can't imagine abandoning it. Adding to it, perhaps. But it's not that it's just a connection to Melissa. It's a connection to her whole past. Her sister, her parents, to Russ, to the memories she made in the little house on the stump of a street at the edge of a city. It's barely 5 in the morning, but she's up before her alarm again, walking barefoot around the basement. Her room's fine enough, and would still count as the nicest place she's had to call her own in years, if not for Maria's recent gift of another bedroom up on the first floor. But changing her scenery helps her think. The lights are low, with just one spotlight in every 4 and on at 1/3 brightness, and it's quiet. She runs an idle finger along the wall of the main corridor and turns off into the common room. She imagines whichever poor girl pulled a night shift watching her screen up on the security room and laughing to herself. Steph's wandering the halls again. Stefani. The name is hers, belongs to every version of her, so why should she change it? She never expected continuity to be a thing she desired, something she needed, and she winces as she remembers protesting to Christine that she wanted a clean break from this guy. She jabbed a thumb aggressively into her chest back there in the cell with her before she could even consider adopting a new pronoun, and now here she is, embracing her womanhood but still reclaiming the same old name. You don't have to deserve your gender. It's just your gender. 7 weeks to internalize such an incredibly simple lesson. No wonder Christine got stressed out with her way back when. Idiot. No, she shouldn't torture herself, she decides, and then breaks out into giggles, imagining a deadpan Maria informing her that torture is explicitly not in her job description, and the responsibility of torture merits a considerable pay bump, and Steph's basically an intern. Stupid Dorley's sense of humor. It's wormed her way into her brain. She leans on the back of one of the couches by the TV, pulls out her phone out of her pocket, and checks the time. 5:04. Perfect. Little automated daily updates will have gone out. She swaps through the sponsor apps, checking for alerts. None. And news. Little. Indira's report on Aaron says he spent the night the same way he spent all Sunday, alone in his room, drifting listlessly from sleep to wakefulness to back again, putting on a series of movies and TV shows he's clearly not watching, eating the bare minimum, turning away from the cameras to cry. It's hard to stay away, but Indira's asked her to, so she will, for a little while. At least he's eating, and at least his plan to resist the treatments didn't manifest on Saturday night. He accepted the week's estradiol shot without fuss in what Indira described in yesterday's report as death glare silence. She scrolls around on her phone, twisting the fabric cord around her finger and bumping the frog and elephant against her wrist. Already habit after just one day. Pippa got her a phone case and a braided cord to loop through it, and now Steph can take her little keepsake wherever she takes her phone, as long as she's careful to hide the case and its companions from the boys. Technically, it's a bit of a risk leaving the case on out here in the common room, but who else is going to go for a oneser at 5 in the morning? Who else is going to come out of the room on their own at all, except Martin? Still, best not to tarry. Steph kicks off from the couch she's been leaning on and heads back to the bedrooms, pausing in the main doorway and looking down the line. Aaron's door, one down from hers on the other side, and she has to pass by it on the way to her room, so she can't be blamed for stopping to listen for a moment. Steady breathing. It's just about audible. He's sleeping. Good. The confirmation silences the violent thought that she's been coming to every so often since he rejected her, that he might hurt himself badly enough and quickly enough that no one can save him. She keeps listening to the breaths. In and out, with a grumble on the inhalation that suggests he's sleeping on his back. She could have checked the cameras, and she does, several times a day, but this is more real. Her fingers trace patterns on the door. Maria and the sponsors gave her a lot of trust when they opened up her access. Her thumb opens almost every lock between Aaron and Freedom, and it probably wouldn't take too much to get through the kitchen doors, especially if they work together. She could just take him And at this time in the morning, there's probably only one night shift girl in the security room, sleepy and slow, and Steph has a taser. They could be out the front door before anyone else caught on. A list of names and dates on a screen. He needs to change. Forget the other consequences. Dorley exposed, Pippa and Christine and the rest of them taken away. Steph once again at the languid mercy of the NHS. Aaron would go back to being the person he was before all of this. The piece of shit that she remembers from her first day here, who jokes about the women Raph hurt and the man Martin killed. And he rejected her. Let's not forget that. She checks to make sure he's still breathing, like he's asleep. He is, and she forces herself to walk away, sparing a sheepish glance at the camera as she does so. The sponsors all seem to know how she feels anyway. Back in the room, she slumps onto her bed, lies on her back, scrolls around on her phone. Another day to fill. Without Aaron, she's been at a loose end. Adam's been leaving his room in Eddie's company only and does nothing but stare at the television, eats whatever's put in front of him, and ignores all attempts at conversation. And Martin, she spent nearly an hour on Sunday morning going over the pamphlets with him, discussing the mechanics of transition and watching him absorb the information with a dispassionate acceptance of someone looking over a utility bill that's come to the exact amount that was expected. It's almost as if the man isn't there when she talks to him. He'll answer questions, he'll even hold a coherent conversation, but that's about it. If she somehow managed to stab him somewhere sensitive with a plastic fork, he'd probably do nothing more than coldly examine both weapon and wound, and perhaps return the fork. It's like he's decided to make a head start on becoming a new person by dissolving the old one. So she spent much of her Sunday upstairs, in her new room. It's a vast improvement on the one she came back downstairs to sleep in, that's for sure. It's on the corner, which explains why it's a funny shape and why it's large enough to have its own ensuite, and it looks out into the woods and the edge of campus. Pippa told her the wardrobe and drawers have largely been stocked with clothes roughly her size, but Steph wasn't brave enough yesterday to check, fearing for the fragility of her newly embraced womanhood. After lunch, Christine gave Steph her first voice training lesson. "I'm the best in my year," she said, standing up straight and bullying Steph until she did so, and favoring her with a song in near-perfect soprano. "Were you a choir boy?" Steph had asked before the inappropriateness of the question occurred to her, but Christine wasn't offended, instead flicking him lightly on the shoulder and shaking her head. "We weren't religious, and I think if I'd set foot into church I'd have melted like the witch in the Wizard of Oz. I've just had a lot of practice," she smirked at him, "which I'm going to have fun inflicting on you. Now chin up, breathe in, at the chest, not the shoulders, and give me an ah." Steph gave her an awful lot of ahs. When they broke for dinner, and to make time for Christine's obvious pining for Paige, she praised Steph's projects. "You're speaking from the right place," she said, "most of the time, and your projection isn't bad, so practice every day. Up here, it's soundproofed. All the rooms on the first floor are, or Aunt Bea would have gone crazy by now. Just make sure you slip back into your boy voice when you go back downstairs, or you give the guys a hell of a shock. You'll be able to use them both side by side for now as long as you keep up the practice, but you'll probably only see a major pitch lift when you abandon your old voice for good. So I won't be able to sound like a girl." "Of course you will. Lots of women have deeper voices, and if you don't want to lift your pitch, that's fine too. You're really not that much lower than Pippa. I'm just saying that you won't be able to do this." And she briefly slipped into a descant do-re-mi, "until you stop pretending to be a boy altogether. Which, yes, I know, it's horrible, but it's you who said you wanted to stay down there." "Sometimes," she said. "I'm an idiot." "Oh, you noticed." Steph chased her out of the room for that. Stephanie. She likes it, spelled with a PH. More different from her old name than Stephanie, with an F. Maybe she'll try it out for a bit. See how it fits. Like Maria said, her first choice doesn't have to be her only choice. The quiet click of her bedroom door startles her, but only enough that she drops her phone on her chest and winces. Every time she thinks her nipples have become as sensitive as they're going to get, they find more spare nerve endings lying around. She sits up all the way and greets her fake sponsor with a smile. "Hi," Pippa whispers, shutting the door and tiptoeing into the middle of the room. "Maria wants you at the briefing this morning, but it's not for a while, and I woke up early, and I was kind of bored, and I thought maybe we could break the seal on your new wardrobe. Get you in something other than a hoodie for a change. You don't have to, though," she adds, frowning. "It's just a suggestion. I never want to push you. Actually, I really shouldn't push you. I was reading that you need to let trans girls take things at their own." "Pip," Steph says, interrupting before she builds up too much steam. "It's fine. It's a good idea, and I could do with a shower anyway." They don't talk again till they're out of the basement and ascending. Steph, out of curiosity, pokes her head into the security room as they pass, but the woman in there is someone she doesn't really know. The woman smiles and waves anyways, looking exactly as bored as Steph would expect from someone on the night shift. Nell, she thinks she's called. Nell returns her ebook, and Steph and Pippa continue on up, taking the back stairs to the first floor and Steph's other, nicer, more above-ground bedroom. When she's done showering, she finds Pippa arranging a selection of outfits in the bed. I was thinking modest, but flattering, Pippa explains, and explaining her logic for each choice. Steph, as she does so, can't help but notice the full set of underwear draped in the back of the chair. Sporty, light grey, some padding in the bra. That's fine, but it's not like she has much to fill out with otherwise. She'd always thought her first time wearing appropriate underwear would somehow be revelatory, but the bra and knickers slip on easily, fit comfortably, and they're thoroughly unexciting. Pippa's visibly pleased with how she looks in them, though, which prompts a blush from Steph that she can't control. What's up? Pippa says when Steph looks away. Steph says, flapping a hand, unable to find the words she needs. If we're going too fast, we can stop. It's not that. It's, She closes her eyes and places her hands on her belly, runs through Christine's breathing exercises. Pippa, bless her, gives her the time. Once calm, Steph opens her eyes, meets Pippa's gaze, and does her best to explain. When you looked at me, it felt different. Not bad different, or weird different. I felt warm? Like, okay, you've obviously seen me naked, right? Yeah, Pippa says darkly. Not your fault, Steph says quickly. Sponsor crap, but you've seen me without anything on. And now you see me with all the jogging crap we have downstairs on, but this is the first time you see me in, well, girls' clothes. And I know it's just a bra and stuff, it's like the simplest thing ever, but Pippa, they're really comfortable. And when you looked at me, it was like I knew you were looking at me. The me I want to be when I'm looked at, and Pippa collides with her, hugs her tight, and when Steph hugs her back, Pippa sniffs, loud and liquid, and says, I love this for you, Steph. They separate so Pippa can blow her nose, which she does enviably delicately, and then it's back to work. Between them, they choose a loose blue dress. It's perfect for you, Steph. It's right opposite your hair on the colour wheel, with just a skirt past the knee and a wide belt in matching colours to give her developing waist a bit of help. Pippa suggests leggings underneath for confidence and to keep out the cold, and brushes Steph's hair, teasing the locks between her fingers and occasionally blasting it with spray, while Steph fiddles with a belt, finding a compromise between borrowing a figure from it and having it pinch the top of her hips. She can't resist a little spin. Pippa giggles and bounces over for another hug. Steph, you look wonderful. She turns Steph to face the mirror, the one that she's been avoiding ever since she got up here, and Steph takes in her worst-case scenario, sharing a reflection with Pippa, one of the most beautiful women she's ever met. Actually, not awful. Sure, there's fuzz where she missed when she buzzed her face, and her hair is still a lot shorter than she'd like, and she still looks mostly the way she did when she first got to Dorley, but mostly isn't entirely. And with a dress and a positive attitude, she isn't the disgusting troglodyte she feared she might be. The girl in the mirror is still there. Shyly, she turns back to Pippa. She says, intensely aware of the blush growing once again on her cheeks. Can you call me Stephanie? I'd be delighted, Pippa says, her excitement obvious and infectious. Stephanie. Steph turns back to the mirror and confirms the blush has more or less taken over her whole face. I just want to try it, she says quietly. You can try it all you want, Stephanie, Pippa says. You have so much time to find yourself. The slight frown that pricks at Pippa's eyebrows is suddenly all that Steph can think about, and she breaks out of Pippa's grip and drops hard into the end of the bed, avoiding the rejected outfits, tucking her legs under herself, making herself small. I'm sorry, she says. Pippa's frown deepens. I don't understand. What are you apologizing for? A heavy breath controls her burgeoning shame. It's like you said. I have all this time. I have it. This place, Dorley, it was always a big gift-wrap present that I just needed to fake being a boy a little bit longer a while to get, but now... Another deep breath. The buds of her breasts move inside the bra. The cushioning feels good. Shit, even this. She tugs at the strap of her bra, pulling it out from under the neckline of her dress. Free clothes, free underwear. Everyone's falling over themselves being nice to me. She risks a look at Pippa. She's still confused. I've been here 7 weeks, and I can't stop thinking about you at 7 weeks. Or Christine, or Paige, or Indira, or Tabby. Didn't your sponsor say they basically abused you? Steph, Pippa says sharply, and stands right in front, makes herself impossible to ignore. Stephanie, you are the only one making that comparison. I promise. I don't resent you for getting what you need from this place. No one does. That's not what I mean. They hurt you, Pip, and here I am, the beneficiary of all the things they hurt you with. Stephanie, Pippa says, emphasizing the final vowel. She squats down and sits on her knees and places her hand in Steph's lap. You need to stop thinking of it that way. I mean, she adds, smiling, if you're worried about me, just remember I was expecting you to spend the whole year with someone like Raph or Ollie. You're the biggest surprise I ever had. But no buts. Never forget, I was brought here because I needed help. You came here because you needed help. And this place, it's helped me. It's helping you. Just like the medicine stung a little bit when it went down doesn't mean I regret being brought here. Stung a little, Steph says. I saw Declan after 3 strikes. They never did that to me, or Christine, or Paige, or basically anyone who's still down here. That was drastic measures. She reaches up for Steph's cheek, strokes the downy hairs below her eyes. Stephanie, you need this. I needed this. She nods down at herself, and I'll never stop being glad I got it. We all feel the same, and we're all glad to see you getting what you need, okay? Steph nods slowly. Okay, sorry, I like you a lot. I hate to think of you in pain. You're like, she doesn't want to say it. It's embarrassing. I'm like the older sister you never had, Pippa guesses. Steph nods. And that's how it should be. And don't worry about my old self and what had to happen to him to make him into me. He's still here. She taps her heart. At least the parts of him worth keeping are. And he's happy. I'm happy to be here right now with you. It's foolish, always thinking about the girls and how they used to be, when they themselves would rather see themselves as how they are, when they've repeatedly asked her to do so. Steph nods again, and together they rise and embrace. She concentrates on Pippa, the woman in her arms, and nothing else. There's a moment's idiot guilt, and then it's gone. Steph luxuriates in the warmth of her sister. Better, Pippa says, pulling away. Yeah. Then how about trying some makeup? Without waiting for an answer, Pippa grabs her wrist and drags her over to the vanity. Steph lets herself be sat down, but fidgets. Don't you think I'll look silly? Why? Pippa asks. Are you saying I suck at this? Steph snorts. Pippa's eye makeup was the first thing she ever noticed about her. No, she says patiently. I think I'm very good at looking silly. But you're already so pretty, Stephanie, Pippa says, dragging a stool over and sitting down next to her. And you're only going to get prettier. She avoids her face in the mirror. I look so masculine, though. Less than I did, I guess. Enough for me to see Stephanie, Pippa says severely, threatening Steph with... Steph squints at the label, a tube of primer. Yes? You're a pretty girl. She uncaps the primer. Deal with it. I just can't see it. I can see a girl if I try, but a pretty one? No. Well then, Pippa says, smearing gel onto her fingertips. Maybe we need to get you some glasses, pretty girl. She's never wanted to see the place before. Actively avoided it despite how large it looms in Vicky's history because it's Vicky's place. She doesn't know what happened to her while she lived here, and she's never wanted to push for that knowledge, and Vicky's never offered it. All she knows is that Dorley Hall is part of Vicky's past, part of the person she was before they met, part of how she got hurt, part of what makes the love of Lorna's life whimper in the dark. It's also part of the lies which keep unraveling, splitting off into more lies as they come apart, tearing at the seams, slowly revealing something. Lorna doesn't know what it is yet, but it's the shape of something clear. Everything she can actually verify about Vicky's life is from after the time she left Dorley Hall, with the odd snippet from when she still lived there. As for her life before the hall, Vicky's on file at the school in Thellingford, but the teacher Lorna spoke to, slipping her name in among a dozen others, making suggestions for a reunion, didn't remember her. Vicky's parents, both only children, died together in an accident. The only childhood friend who responded to Lorna's contact on Facebook did so with a terse message about some falling out that had soured their relationship for life, and signed off with a request to have her information deleted from Lorna's phone. And then there's the time Vicky spent traveling, explained as a need to get away from the death of her parents. Vicky has stories of couch surfing around Australia, working on her tan, taking cash jobs in bars, but not a single friend from that time has ever got in touch. And the idea that Vicky, who isn't exactly an introvert but is practically the definition of careful, sensible, and diligent, throwing away everything to bum around a country half a world away has never quite fit. Finally, Dorley Hall, where everything converges, the place where she met her closest friends, where she met all the friends she hasn't met through Lorna, and yet the place she still doesn't like to talk about. It's also the place Vicky goes back to a lot, despite claiming to hate it. To see her friends, to bum free food off the kitchen, and to get Lorna's estradiol from some girl who also likes her secrecy. And that girl is Lorna's natural next target. Sure, she doesn't know her name, but she does know another girl who lives in Dorley Hall, who is best friends with Vicky, and who has recently acquired a mysterious trans woman friend who would probably quite like some estradiol of her own. Lorna works hard to be nice to Christine. It's not like the girl is unlikable, quite the opposite, but it's difficult not to feel jealous. Christine's pretty, she's sweet, she's never given Lorna the look that Victoria sometimes gives her, like she feels sorry for her, like she wants to wrap her in cotton and protect her from the world, which, yes, is very kind, but Lorna doesn't want pity. Besides, Christine was there for some of the hardest parts of Vicky's life. Something to be jealous of, sure, but it also makes Christine a keeper of secrets. Secrets Lorna needs. It's bright and clear but cold, and it's early enough that the sun is barely grazing the university grounds. Dorley Hall skulks in the half-light, a brick monstrosity barely restrained by the vines that climb it from basement to rooftop, as if the earth itself is trying to drag it under. Vicky said it used to be a private hospital, the type of place you get sent to if you're an aristocratic woman who happens to be inappropriately mad or inconveniently self-interested, and it shows. Lorna, approaching in its shadow, feels as if it might swallow her. But the entryway is brightly lit, and when she pushes through the double doors into the hall, the mall immediately to her left hosts a battered corkboard covering the usual paper paraphernalia of dorm life. Party flyers, instructions for residents on how to dispose of the garbage, emergency procedures, ads for voice lessons, singing lessons, she presumes, and other such mundanities. Pleasingly ordinary. The locked kitchen doors are unusual, as is the fingerprint needle next to the mechanism. Perhaps sat here on the edge of campus, they found they need to be more security conscious than they were back in the famously always open Windsor Tower, Lorna's home for her first year at Saints. She peers into the windows through the kitchen doors. At the large table that dominates the room, a black girl is in conversation with a South Asian girl and a plate of pastries. The black girl looks irritated, the other girl seems sympathetic. Lorna doesn't want to interrupt, but after a minute becomes clear enough the discussion is still far from a natural break, so she raps on the window and gives an embarrassed wave. It's the black girl who gets up. She lets Lorna in with a thumb reader on the other side of the door. Biometrics inside as well as out. Hi, the girl says. Lorna revises her first impression. She's older than she thought. Late 20s at least. Grad student? She looks tired and annoyed, which Lorna takes as evidence for her conclusion. Hi, Lorna says, finally assembling her wits a full second after they would have been useful. I'm Lorna, Vicky's girlfriend. Hi, the South Asian girl calls, leaping up from her chair and near running over to her, only to stop and linger, chastened about a meter away from Lorna's confused frown. Sorry, we all know her, is all. We've heard a lot about you. I'm Indira, this is Tabitha. Tabby extends a hand. It's nice to meet you. Lorna takes her hand, noting a slight stress on finally. Have they all been bugging Vicky to bring her over? Vic's never mentioned it. Hi, she says again, uselessly, and shakes for far too long. This is so awkward. Over Tabby's shoulder, the girl is tall, but Lorna is taller. She can see another set of double doors, propped open, that lead to a large dining hall and a closed, heavy-looking metal door inset in a concrete arch. She only has just the time to read the sign. It says maintenance, and she decides, be a materials cheap late edition, judging by the extreme contrasts, otherwise well-maintained and consistent aesthetic. She imagines the custodians of this place apoplectic before what it looks uncomfortably like a portable to hell, smashed through the wall of their immaculate dining hall and berating some poor contractor before Tabby's head obscures her view. Victoria's not here, Tabby says, smiling to make it sound less dismissive. Do you need to leave a message with us, or... I know, Lorna says, too quickly. She's put her finger on the source of her nerves, and it's not just that she's in Dorley Hall. If Vicky's talked to these people about her, they might know. And while Lorna's not exactly stealth here on campus, impossible to be when she stands on chairs at rallies with a dozen phone cameras pointing at her, she also likes her perception to be at least somewhat under her control. Out and proud among her peers, play acting a boring little cis girl when she goes to buy her oat milk. Especially when, as the paranoid voice in her head, the one she hates but nonetheless credits with helping her survive this month when it was just going to the shops had been a terrifying and almost superhuman exercise of will, insists she worries she's far more cocky than she wants to be. FFS in less than 3 months. People love to tell her she's beautiful, that she doesn't need it, and she's used to ignoring them. If you haven't had someone come up to you on the street, block your path, stare at you for 20 plus seconds, then shout as loud as they can because they want to see if they can make you jump and hear the noise you make when you do, you don't get to have an opinion. Appearance is safety, and right now she doesn't feel safe. She chews the inside of her cheek. She's being stupid. This place isn't that dangerous. These girls aren't her enemies. And this is just a perfectly normal building filled with perfectly normal people. That Vicky sometimes whispers its name in her sleep is a coincidence and nothing more. I'm actually looking for Christine, she says. I would have texted her, but I cracked my phone and it's being repaired. Quality lie, Lorna. Oh, Indira says. She's probably here. I can call her if you like. Lorna nods, and Indira bustles back over to the table, makes the call. Hey, sis, she sends to the phone. Sis, you're home, right? Well, you never guess who's here. In the kitchen, and asking for you. No. Teeny, I said you'd never guess. No, look, just... No, Christine, please stop being clever. Yes, you're very funny. It's Lorna, Teeny. She's here. Indira's eyes meet Lorna's for a moment, which is exciting because I've wanted to meet her for so long. And yes, she is very pretty. Those eyes roll now as she points at her phone in exasperation, turning a pointing hand into one miming a voice that will not, for the love of God, shut up. I was thinking, she says, interrupting whatever Christine's saying, you could have her up there, in your kitchen? There's only Tabby and me down here, and we both have things to do. Yes, things. What did I tell you about being funny? Yes, I'll send her up. Yes, unlock them. I don't know, 3 minutes? If you're not wearing clothes, it's time enough to find some, unless you want to form a polycule with her and Victoria. Hey, I'm allowed to be funny too, you know. Yes, love you. Be careful, sweetheart. All arranged? Tabby says, leaning on the table with an eye on Lorna, tapping her fingers on her folded arms, a human avatar for the tension Lorna feels in the room. As if visitors are a bad thing, as if her arrival is cause for alarm. Don't be stupid, Lorna tells herself. She's had a difficult weekend, bad sleep, and she feels like she doesn't know who her girlfriend even is anymore. Any one of these could make her paranoid. All three together make her feel 15 again, like when her mum still lived with them and she's watching for danger behind every door. All done, Indira says, beaming. She drops her phone into a bag and rushes over back to Lorna, grasping her hand and shaking before Lorna really knows what's happening. All her prior reticence gone. I wish we had more time to spend with you, Lorna. You must visit again. I will. Just go up the front stairs, Tabby says, waving a hand at Indira, who releases Lorna and steps back, still smiling. Till you get to the second floor. Christine will meet you there, Indira says. Thanks, Indira, Tabby, Lorna says, and looks at them for a moment longer, making sure to fix their faces in her memory alongside their name. She always makes an effort with that. It always seemed important, and she can ask Christine their pronouns later. Tabby buzzes the door opens for her and smiles again. Indira waggles her fingers in farewell. Once she's back out of the kitchen and she's gotten her bearings, she hears Tabby, muffled by the closing doors, say something like, What was that? What was what? You called her sis. Did you panic? It's my day off. You can't expect me to. And that's all Lorna gets, as the curve of the stairs silences what remains of their voices. The security room's laid out like the kitchen, which it sits directly under. Where the aga and the food cupboards would be is a large custom-fitted security desk, the sort Seth's seen on movies. 4 large screens, each divided up into multiple camera views, a control console for the screens and cameras, an open space which tends to fill up with laptops and phones. And then where the kitchen table would be, there's a pair of tables, like the ones fitted in the common area, only with padded seats. Then there's also another table, added after the room is professionally fitted, which looks like it came from IKEA and which pushes up against a pair of long couches. It's the one Steph's seen most of the sponsors at, with a couple of laptops in front of them and inevitably a plate of snacks. Nobody's putting a long shift on monitoring duty wants to sit by the chairs and security screens when there's a sofa on which to lounge. She and Pippa are here early. Oh, thank God, Nell says, looking up from her e-book. Steph wonders if the dark circles under her eyes have gotten deeper since she last saw her. Can I go now? Go, Pippa says, shooing her. We'll watch the screens till everyone else gets here. You're a doll, Pippa. Nell pushes herself up, slowly and painfully, with stretches and audible cracks. Hi, Steph. That's your name, right? I'm kind of behind on events. Hi, Steph says, and it's Stephanie right now. I'm trying it out? Stephanie, huh? Suits you. I'm Nell. I'm on shit duty anyways. She puts her e-reader in her bag and scrapes her hand along the edge of the table, dropping laptop, pens, and notepad in it. Toodles, kids. She seems nice, Steph says, as Pippa slides to the end spot on the couch. She's not, Pippa says, and sighs at Steph's bemused expression. She's working on it, shadowing the rest of us, one at a time, and taking more graveyard shifts than anyone else. Steph sits down next to her and leans back into the soft cushion. How come? Because she wasn't nice. Bad sponsoring technique. Oh, not like your soft touch then. No, not like... Are you making fun of me? Steph shrugs a little. Pippa reaches down beside the couch and pulls out a laptop, which has the battered and unloved look of an institutional device. It boots slowly, and she makes coffee for the both of them with the pod machine in the corner while they wait. How are you doing? She asks, gesturing backwards with her head at the screens behind her. Steph, who hasn't been able to look away from the two cameras monitoring Aaron, groans. Am I that obvious? A little, Pippa says. God, Steph says, as Pippa drops back down onto the couch and hands her a coffee in a plain red mug. I feel stupid. Why? He rejected me? Steph's got a hand on the table, tapping the fingers on the surface. Pippa covers it, silencing her. She squeezes. I've seen him with you, she says. He doesn't know what he feels about you, about anything. He's a big, ugly ball with repressed everything, and your confession, it pulled on a string. It was like that for a lot of us. You? Me, Pippa says firmly. My trigger was different, and who I was when I came here was very different from him, but I recognize a lot of his behavior. He's facing up to the knowledge that he's going to leave here an entirely new person, and on top of that, he's got you, a friend, who wants more. I'll bet 100 quid he's never had someone express that kind of interest in him before. He doesn't know how to feel about it. He doesn't even know how to feel, she coughs delicately. Masculinity, for boys like him, for boys like I used to be, is like an Iron Maiden. It's a shell that protects you, but it hurts you as well. And when you're hurting that much, vulnerability, genuine emotion, is a liability. We can tear away the armor and give him room to breathe, but his wounds have to heal first. What can I do? Wait for him to come back to you. Be an example for him until he does. And don't push. Indira's a great sponsor, and so's Maria. They'll know when he needs a nudge and when he needs to be left alone. But, Pippa raises a warning finger. You should know, things are going to get worse for him before they get better, and you're going to be down there with it. It gets messy down there when the boys really start changing. We're mostly still in the warm-up phase. I can deal with it, Steph says. Okay, just maybe practice calling him her. Not until he asks me to. Pippa starts and then zippers her mouth and nods to the door. Steph turns to see Eddie and Maria walk in, slowly and carefully, with Eddie holding Maria's arm and Maria's face set with an expression of amused tolerance, as if letting her girlfriend look after her is equivalent to granting her the greatest of favors. Still, when she sits down next to Steph, she still seems relieved to get off her feet. Hi, Steph says. Maria sits forward, folds her arms on the table, and rests her head on them, half closing her eyes until Eddie darts over to the console and lowers the lights. Hi, Steph, she says. Stephanie. I'm trying it out, Steph says. Maria smiles broadly. Hi, Stephanie. How are you doing? Good, and thanks for the advice. It really helped. Anytime, she whispers. It's impossible not to notice how tired she looks. Can I get you anything? Maria smiles, half visible through the crook of her arm. You can take the second years off my hands if you like. I agreed to take some of the admin responsibility for them while I'm spending so much time bedbound, and Mia's begging me to let her stream. Stream? Pippa says. Stream what? I have no idea what game it is, Maria says, grimacing. All I know is she bugs the other girls to play it with her on the LAN here, and she wants to take her skills online. But I've told her 1,000 times, no streaming until you stop making jokes about your huge hog. Eddie sits down next to her, smooths down her hair, and drapes a flannel over her head, for which Maria thanks her. Steph looks away as Maria turns to Edie, not wanting to intrude on their intimacy. The other sponsors start filing in. Jane waves at her. Indira squeezes in next to Eddie and leans down next to wiggle her fingers at Steph, and Monica gives her a smile. Pamela pulls a stool out from under the table and sits down on it with the aura of a woman who will only get back up if ordered to, loudly. Last one in is Tabby, wheeling in an office chair from the storeroom across the hall and collapsing dramatically into it with an exaggerated sigh and a cup of coffee she only just doesn't spill. She nods at Indira, who nods back and waves at her phone, which is open to a set of cameras elsewhere in the building. Some private problem, Steph assumes. Tabby's almost blocking the entrance, and even Steph, who doesn't know her that well, can tell she's not having the best morning. Everyone in the room here is looking at her now, with the exception of Indira, who's watching the feed on her phone, and in the expectant silence says, "Nobody's going to ask why I'm pissed off?" "I think we're all just waiting with bated breath," Maria says from underneath her flannel. "Didn't you just come in, super late last night?" "She had a date," Monica sings. "Spill," Eddie says. She's been setting up laptops in front of her and Maria, with security feeds on one and action points on the other. "Men fucking suck," Tabby says. "Ah, one of those dates. Thought it was going well with Barry," Maria says, struggling more upright and leaning on her hands. "What'd he do?" Edie removes the flannel from her head before it falls off. "It was going great," Tabby says. "And, well, he hasn't really done anything. She hasn't done anything." Monica snorts into her coffee. "Ah," Eddie says. "Not again, surely." "Again," Tabby says darkly. "She told you last night?" "Yes. She invited me to dinner. She cooked. It was going to be a whole special evening, and I thought it might be something else as well. And then she starts with the whole Tab. There's been something I've been thinking about for a long time, and I just fucking knew. I had to sit through the whole thing and smile and hug her, and that used up all my supportive girlfriend energy, so today I'm just going to be bitter and alone." "You should put her in touch with your last boyfriend," Eddie says. Tabby laughs. "They already know each other. They had a girls' night last week, just to see what it was like." "Does she know you're straight?" "Yeah, I gave her the usual." "God, how stupid it is that I have a usual for this." "And we're going to be friends." She groans. "I'm taking her shopping next week with Belinda and Kelly. It'll be like a reunion. All of Tabby's ex-boyfriend turns ex-girlfriends together again." Jane snorts. "You'll have fun. You know you will." Yeah, I know. It's nice helping trans girls find themselves, but why do they have to keep finding themselves inside my boyfriends?" Harmony, arriving late, wordlessly reaches into the paper bag she's carrying and hands Tabby a croissant, which she attacks with irritated fervor. "Did she tell you yet?" "Yes," several people say. She lays a caring hand on Tabby's shoulder. "I do know someone, if you're looking to get back on the market." "No," Tabby says. "Like I said, men suck." "Tab," Jane says, "it might be just time to accept that you're gay. Join the winning team." "To be fair," Edie says, "none of her boyfriends have actually been men." "That's just it," Tabby says, and gestures towards security monitors, one of them focused on Will and Raph. "Men suck, and we're all intimately acquainted with how much men can suck. So it makes a kind of twisted sense that the men I'm drawn to will all eventually turn out to be women." "Tell you what," Maria says, blinking carefully against the still too bright lights in the security room. "The next guy you find interesting, we'll just bring her straight here. We'll give her Stephanie treatment. Save you a lot of time." Tabby scowls at her and snatches the empty paper bag from Harmony, screws it up, and throws it at Maria's head. Edie intercepts it with a frown. Then Tabby blinks and says, "Oh, hey Stephanie, you decided to switch up your name. Good for you." "Trying it out," Steph says. Various sponsors smile for her, or give her a thumbs up, or groan something unintelligible from their state of near unconsciousness. Pamela. "I like it," Monica says. "But," she adds, to groans from the assembled sponsors, who can spot a business-like tone when they can hear one, "I'm afraid it's time we got down to it." "Boo," Harmony comments. "Actually," Indira says, standing up and relieving the pressure on the couch, which was struggling to fit the five of them between the armrests, "there is one thing, before we begin. Tabby and I met Lorna Fielding this morning. She interrupted us just when Tabby was telling me," she throws a grin across the room, "about her problems. Lorna's going out with Victoria. They've been dating a long time, and things were going well until recently. Lorna now suspects Vicky of keeping secrets from her." "Not funny, Harmony." "I didn't laugh." "You smirked." "Don't. This has the potential to hurt Lorna, hurt Victoria, and blow up in all of our faces if the situation isn't contained. Lorna's an outsider. She's not cleared, and while we obviously have a profile on her, the contents aren't encouraging. She's highly politically motivated. She has contacts with notable activists. She's only a handful of degrees of separation from some fairly well-known journalists. That's the downside. What's the upside?" Indira smiles. "She loves Victoria. It's why we didn't discourage the relationship. Victoria is one of the most accomplished graduates we've ever had. They fell deeply in love very quickly. Our initial assessment is their attachment would override Lorna's need to do the right thing. Neither of you are with her now, so I'm assuming you've assigned someone? Yes, Indira says, nodding. We sent her up to talk to Christine. Seth thinks she feels Maria tense for a moment. Christine will handle it. You don't think she'll crack? Tell her everything? No, she'll calmly and rationally assess the situation and then tell her everything. We've done it before. Christine hasn't done it before, though, Edie says. If Indira thinks Christine's got this, Tabby says, she's got this. They're friends, Indira says. Christine knows her pretty well. She knows Victoria better than any of us, and Christine's track record of making out-of-the-box decisions that somehow nonetheless benefit and protect us is sitting right here at the table. Steph, on a cue, waves. Christine will find a way to tell her that doesn't make her fly off the handle. And what if she does? Don't worry, Indira says. My teenie's not stupid. She'll make sure all the doors are locked before they even start talking. Lorna's visited almost every other building on campus. Some, like the old residential towers, seem held together only by the tension between the steadily increasing funding required to keep them upright on year and the potential payout should they collapse with students inside. Others, like the anthill, wear the money spent on their construction ostentatiously in curved fascia and internal viewing windows and lecture theatres large enough to hold twice as many students as will ever attend her psychology modules. Dorley Hall's different in every possible way. She's been told it predates the establishment of even the university's ancestor college, that it served a number of functions over the years, and it's never had more than a handful of consecutive years vacant. From this, she has inferred the amount of money that it's absorbed could build a whole second anthill, possibly a whole second university with some left over. From the outside, it's imposing. Inside, it's lavish, in the manner of a well-maintained National Trust property. Old-fashioned, polished, dignified, the walls of the main staircase are tiled with green ceramic, treated in some way that makes them look almost crystalline. And where the brick has been deliberately left bare, none of it has the dusty sheen she associates with exposed brickwork. This place is out of her league. It's out of Vicky's league too, but that's supposed to be the point. She's just one of the many disadvantaged girls who got subsidized room in a dorm that's not technically part of the university and thus can write its own rules. A lot of people stay here for their whole degree and beyond. What happened to her here? That something did, and it was awful, is easier and easier to believe as Lorna ascends. The affluence dripping from every tile, every brick, every fixture lends the building an air of impersonal malice. Drills into her more and more that this is one of those old money buildings that was built centuries before she was born. An outpost of the ageless English aristocracy, a name bigger than anyone who temporarily inhabits it. This is Dorley Hall, and it will outlast her by generations. She imagines the lights flicking suddenly off, plunging her into darkness, absolutely alone, and hurries her step. It takes her several more before she feels foolish. Too many horror games, Lorna. Christine's waiting at the exit to the second floor with a shy smile and an oversized check shirt over a cami and pajama bottoms. She waves, and Lorna, trapped between her anxiety and her need to be polite in all situations, waves back. You really weren't dressed yet, then, Lorna says, and Christine rolls her eyes. You overheard Indira, huh? Should have words with that woman. Who am I without my mystique? Lorna skips up the last couple of steps, allowing herself to be energized by the sight of a friendly face. They embrace on the landing. You don't have mystique. I know you're a nerd. In Lorna's arms, Christine shrugs. It's true. Come on, let's get something to drink. Kitchen's round the corner. Christine leads her down the corridor, and Lorna looks around, eyeing the fingerprint locks in the doors. So much security. Why? The kitchen is at least open and airy. Less like the one on the ground floor, more like the kitchen's the best dorms on campus. Utilitarian, but with fittings and fixtures of the highest quality. Christine nods at the table in the middle and flicks the kettle on, starts rummaging in the fridge. Have you had breakfast, she said. We have cereal, or I could attempt something with eggs? You kind of like them thrown haphazardly into a frying pan, right? Overhand or underhand? Shell on or off? Just tea is fine, Christine, Lorna says, and grins when Christine turns around, holding an egg. She was worried Christine would be weird around her after their conversation in Cafe 1, but she's acting like her usual self. You sure? Kind of wanted to experiment. She looks so cheeky that Lorna can't stop the laugh. I'm sure, just tea. Your loss, tea it is. The tea takes a couple minutes to make, which they pass with small talk. Lorna mostly lets Christine babble about introducing Paige to her favorite childhood books, and waking up one morning to find that Paige has stayed awake most of the night and made a serious dent in the stack of novels on the bedside table. Christine talks with her hands a lot and has to interrupt the flow more than once to sweep her messy, horny hair out of her eyes. After the third time, Lorna wordlessly pulls a hair tie out of the bag and hands it over. Thanks, Christine says, and ties a ponytail and starts fishing out the tea bags. She looks open and expectant. Why wouldn't she? Only Lorna knows why she's here. Only Lorna knows she's about to risk her nascent friendship with all the girls who lived here. Not just Christine, but Paige and Pippa too. They all seem to come together on a hunch that Vicky's lying to her. It's a pretty fucking well-founded hunch, yes. But Vic's explanations for everything she's been willing to answer so far, and for the rest, absence of evidence is not blah blah fucking blah. So, Christine says, dropping mugs of tea onto the table and sitting down opposite. What's up? Everything okay? This is about what we talked about the other day. Lorna sips her tea. Too hot. She hasn't thought this far ahead, hoping the right questions would simply come to her. Running for days with no sleep and a mixture of aggrieved self-righteousness and genuine fear that what she might discover hasn't left her with significant reserves. You know what? She says, putting down her mug. Fuck it. Yeah, things have been rough with Vicky, but you don't know how rough unless she told you. She told me, Christine confirms, looking at her tea and not Lorna. Yeah, she would have. They were friends before Lorna even arrived on the scene. I'm sorry for my part in it. You had no part in it. I've just been ignoring things for a long time. But you do know things I don't. And I know you'd lie for her. Lorna chews on her cheek for a moment. I know betraying confidences is like the worst thing you can do. But she's interrupted by two other girls, entering the kitchen and stopping short at the sight of her. It's the white one with the deep red hair and the trouser suit who speaks. She says. Hi? Hey, Lorna says hesitantly. Sorry, are we interrupting anything? Christine saves her. Julia, this is Lorna, Vicky's girlfriend. Lorna, this is Julia, and that's Yasmin. The other one, Yasmin, raised from the sideboard, where she's assembling a basic two-person breakfast. Hi, Lorna. If you're looking for Vicky, I know, Lorna says, sharper than she intends, and smiles an apology. Yasmin nods, and Julia leans over and whispers something in her ear, which makes them both giggles. Listen, Julia says, we overheard some stuff coming up the corridor. Julia, Christine says. And we know what it's like to be looking for answers, Yasmin says. We know some of what you need to know, Julia says. Christine covers her face with her hands. Oh, God. I'm just going to come out and say it, Julia says. There's a secret basement where they turn men into women. Yasmin turns around, holding a tray of cereal and coffee. I used to be a rugby jock called Andrew. She's lying, Christine mutters. Yeah, Julia says. That was never her name. Will you two please go to work and get out of my hair? You're both not helping. We're just cutting to the chase, Julia says, putting the poor girl out of her misery. Yasmin, standing in the doorway with her tray, beckons Julia with her head. Come on, leave Christine to the show and tell. Julia waves. You're only making things harder, Christine yells, leaning around the table to direct her voice out the door. Good, Julia yells back. It's payback. That was Yasmin. This is shitty thanks for covering for you. Oh, Yasmin yells. Right, sorry. A door slams, leaving them both in embarrassed silence. Christine breaks it. Sorry about them. Lorna winces. At least she and Christine are both bright red. She can't bear the thought that they're being overheard, knowing that random people are aware of the problems that Vicky and she are having. Kind of a double act, aren't they? She says, wanting a moment to talk about anything else. Christine rolls her eyes. Yeah, they've been together since we were all, they've been together a while. Oh, for God's sake, Christine brings it right back to the secrets. No, Lorna says, pointing a finger, surprised by her own vehemence. No, you can't just trail it off like that. I've had that from Vicky all weekend. Constant allusions to shit that I can't know, and I'm fucking sick of it, Christine. They're involved in it, aren't they? Or they were there. They know about what happened to Vic, and you all do. Should I be suspecting these two girls in the kitchen downstairs too? She realizes her finger is shaking and drops it onto her nap, ignores her cooling tea. She takes a deep breath and says, with more control, I realize this must sound crazy to you, like I've gone off the weekend, but I've done nothing but think about Vicky's past, her life, and this place all weekend. Christine nods. You're sure you're not better off hearing this from Vicky? I've tried. She just shuts it down. She goes to this quiet state and I can almost see what she's thinking. Sometimes it seems like she wants to talk, but she just doesn't. We share a lot of secrets. Sharing her secret is sharing mine too. And you see how frustrating that is. You've always had these pieces of her, loads of them, and I've never gotten to know about any of them. I only get to see how they hurt her. And I've lived with that. I've made myself live with that because I love her. But now that's hurting us. They're breaking us apart as if she's bound by your secrets. Lorna can't finish. She knows what she's asking, or she can guess. She watched Christine that time they went clubbing until Paige came for her. She was twitchy, wary. It switched on and off. She'd be carrying a normal conversation, or she'd be dancing with Pippa, or she'd be walking back from the bar, and then suddenly she'd be afraid. She hid it well, but isn't that just another sign of someone who's learned to live with trauma? Okay, Christine says, her eyes flicking from Lorna to the table to the door. Okay, I'll tell you. I'm sorry, Lorna says. This must seem selfish to you. No, Christine says instantly. Absolutely not. If you take one thing away from me today, it's that you are not being selfish. She goes to run her hand through her hair, then she remembers she tied it up. Her hand hovers uselessly above her head for a second. She shakes it like it's not supposed to be there and digs in her pajama pocket, pulling out a phone. I want to show you something first, she says and messes with it for a while. Okay? She passes it over. Lorna doesn't take it, just leaves it where Christine puts it, because her eyes instantly lock to a screenshot that Christine's loaded up. A text conversation between her and Vicky. It's fine. I'm just so scared. She tells me she loves me, and the word she still loves me, and that word's still in there. It's like it won't stop echoing in my head. It means she knows there's things she has to forgive. It means shit. It means she doesn't see me as the same person she used to. I'll always be someone that lied to her now. She keeps telling me she still loves me, and it's not like she's trying to convince herself. She really does love me, but it's clear she doesn't trust me anymore. Maybe it's just too many lies, all at once. Maybe I sound different when I'm talking about the last year or so, or when I'm listing all the fake bullshit I'm supposed to pretend is my life. Maybe I sound like a liar every time I open my fucking mouth because I am one. She's everything to me. She's the most special girl in the world, and I'm scared I'm going to lose her. I'm scared she's going to decide I'm too broken, too untrustworthy, and just leave. All I want to do is tell her everything, and I just can't. I hate this, I hate this, I hate this. Lorna reads through it 3 times, reaches out for the screen, like she can touch Vicky and comfort her just by knowing that her proximity to her words. Of course she loves her. She reads it once more, her eyes catching on the fake bullshit I'm supposed to pretend is my life. I know showing you that might seem a bit manipulative, Christine says slowly, taking the phone back and locking it. And yeah, maybe it kind of is, but you need to know, before we get into this, how much this has been killing her. She had to make a decision before you met that she can't go back on, and it's been the source of a lot of this. So she's carrying guilt, carrying regret, but most of all, I think she's carrying shame. Christine coughs. All of us are. Lorna nods. How bad is it? She whispers. Christine hesitates. Lorna reads more into that, and then a single word she eventually speaks. Bad. I won't see her differently, Lorna says. I won't, she repeats to Christine's frown. She's my Vicky. It's hard to maintain her anger after reading Vicky's test, seeing something she was never supposed to see. I believe you'll want to see her the same way, and I think you'll have to work at it when you know everything, but I do believe you. Christine shifts uncomfortably in her seat. Look, there's one other thing before we get into everything. 2 other things, really, but they sort of rely on each other, and this is going to be pretty fucking heavy. So, Lorna, are you ready? Yes. There's literally no going back. I'm ready. Okay. We're all part of an organization here, and we're backed by money. Serious money, which buys serious influence, which means the secrets I'm about to tell you are also backed by money and influence, and this is the type of money and influence that can make people literally disappear. Lorna breathes in sharply without meaning to, a hiccup that turns into a cough, but she raises her hand when Christine makes her stand up and help her. She's okay. People disappearing. How big is this? It's starting to sound like Vicky's a fucking spy or something. Is that anything Lorna wants to get involved in? Yes, for Vicky, yes. She may have kept secrets, she may have lied, but Lorna knows her. There's no one else she can imagine in her life. The line, I hate this, I hate this, I hate this, keeps nearly imposing itself on her vision. That's one thing, and this moment here now is your last chance to leave before I read you into everything. Christine, Lorna says carefully, I appreciate that you're looking out for me here. I think you are anyway. But I need to know. I'm all in. Okay. Thing two. Christine taps on her phone again and holds it out. The screen this time shows an official-looking document, black on white. Lorna reaches over and swipes. It goes on for several pages. This is an NDA, or something like it. The gist is, if you breathe a word about what I'm about to tell you to anyone who's not already in the know, we come for you with the biggest legal guns money can buy. Look it over if you like. Lorna swipes the text back and forth. The text is tiny. I trust you, Christine. Just tell me, if I sign this, am I fucked? Christine sighs and makes a show of looking around. You're here and you know something's up, so you're fucked already. But Lorna, this doesn't make it any worse. Way to make a girl feel safe, Lorna says, trying to keep her tone light as she navigates the last page, taps in the name and date, records her thumbprint in the phone sensor. Okay, Christine says, taking the phone back and pocketing it. You're officially in the loop, which, yes, I know this has all been a bit scary, but you're now in the same position as Vicky and me and the rest of us. She couldn't tell me anything because of an NDA. Ludicrous. Christine snorts. Not exactly. We're kept under control by other means. We signed something similar, yes, but it's not the paperwork that does it. The secret is too big. No amount of paperwork could keep it hidden. It's just protocol, legal fancy dress for the real threat. What do you mean? Remember how I said that money can make people disappear? It's done so twice in the last month. Lorna's chest tightens. What has she gotten herself into? You're fucking kidding me. No, bad people. Very bad people. A rapist and a person possibly even worse than him. A woman who hurts someone I care about and many more besides. But Christine looks away and wraps her fingernails for a moment on the table. We are capable of doing that to anyone. Remember that. Anyway, she adopts an almost businesslike affect. Your NDA is different to ours. Yours is more like what the PMC guys sign. PMC, private military contractors. You know, soldiers, like in Metal Gear. Every time it seems like it doesn't escalate, it does. You have soldiers. 2 on duty at all times. Lorna nods, breathes carefully again, 5 in, 5 out, until she's not calm, but she's writing it. If this is Vicky's world, this is the shit that makes her cry out at night. She needs to know it all, and if she can't tell anyone else, on pain of being disappeared, fine. She and Vicky can keep the secret together. At least they'll have each other again. Okay, she says. Tell me. Vicky's secrets are hers to tell if she wants to, Christine says. And she will want to, because you're now part of this. But these are mine. She takes a long sip of lukewarm tea. Can't believe I'm doing this twice in 2 months. She looks so uncomfortable that Lorna wants to tell her that it's okay. She can stop. They can take a break, but she doesn't. I was a boy, Christine says. It's like all emotion drained from her voice. And not the way that you, for example, were assigned male. I was just a boy. Her voice is motionless, barely moving from the monotone. Christine's fingers are hyperactive, tapping against each other and winding around. Not a nice one, either. I hurt people. Not physically, but I hurt people. I was cruel, vindictive, and barely functional. And I was found, and I was brought here for rehabilitation. Lorna's breath fails in her throat. She listens, increasingly faint, as Christine tells her the story of her life. The boy, the childhood, the violence, the abusive family, all directed at her mother, with one exception: when he stood up for his mother, took a blow meant for her, and then his mother defended his father against him. The loneliness, the isolation, the obsession with computers and technology. She gets the pronouns mixed up a few times, but Lorna follows along without issue. Christine can't look at her for the next part, seems barely able to speak, and jumps when Lorna reaches over and holds her hand. She said the boy hurt people. Time to say how. She doesn't go into his motivations. It's not important, she says. Stupid adolescent bullshit, she says. The violent logic of the young man that has no other way to process his grief, his anger, his pain, she says. And then capture. Indira taking him to the basement under Dorley Hall. 6 other boys. One of them, she says, up front, doesn't make it. The others do. And what they do to the boys in the basement under Dorley Hall. Lorna loses the thread for a while. The warmth leaves her body. The clarity leaves her hearing. Moisture leaves her mouth. She drinks her cold tea. It's something to do. Across the table, still holding her hand, Christine's crying undemonstrative tears. And when she sees Lorna notice them, whatever remains of her facade crumbles, she rips her hand out of Lorna's and covers her face. Lorna can't stay in her seat after that. She joins Christine on the other side of the table and waits for the grief and shame to pass. She doesn't know how real any of this is. Christine's story fits the facts, but it's completely ludicrous. But at least some of it is close enough to reality to hurt Christine, and thus likely hurt Vicky, even to retell. Sorry, Christine says after a while, wiping her eyes with tissues from her pocket, and Lorna has to tell her over and over that apologies aren't necessary. She senses Christine needs some time to recover, so she makes tea for them both. And when she's done, most of the Christine she knows is back. Forget all this stuff about rehabilitating bad boys. If Christine was once a boy, once someone she hated, if that part is true, and most of it, and of all of it, it's the most believable, well, Lorna knows a little something about that, doesn't she? When you transition, you take what you can of your old life with you, no matter how small the shreds are, you have to tear it into. And Lorna couldn't take much, just a battered and bruised relationship with her father and stepmom, still on the mend. Old long silences and dead names and embarrassed apologies every time she goes back to visit. Christine, from what she said, took even less. Thank you, Lorna says, as warmly as she can. If it was solely up to me, Christine says, sipping her tea, you would have been told that months ago. If it were up to Vicky, she would have told you the week after you met. It's still all too ridiculous, yet all real. Lorna doesn't know if she's ready to make that leap just yet. Jesus fucking Christ, Tina, she says. If he came here, he'd have to change his name too. So, how was your first briefing? Steph flops down onto the bed in her first floor room, kicking off her shoes and enjoying the muted thud as they hit the rug. Exhausting, she says. And what do you mean first? Pippa laughs. You're a perspective that the sponsor team sorely needs, she says, kicking the door closed behind her. Expect to get called on again. Just let me have an ibuprofen first next time, okay? It was at the hour mark she realized how much of her impression of the sponsor had changed. She'd always assumed, from no evidence but the slightly haphazard way things looked from her side, back when she was one of the boys, that they mostly winged it. But in the meeting, they went back over the boys' psychology and recent actions in incredible detail, with each sponsor chiming in with her own opinion, backing it up with surveillance footage. Steph hadn't contributed much comparatively, but her thoughts on Aaron, Adam, and Martin generated much discussion. What do you think about Will? Pippa asks, sitting down in the chair and by the vanity and stretching. Interesting, huh? Active discussion about Will's response to disclosure had been tabled for the next meeting, with Edie asking everyone to check the archives for the boys who responded similarly. Steph, who'd be expected to ask her opinion, had been grateful for the reprieve. Weird, more like, she says. Ollie and Raph had responded to the disclosure the exact same way Steph expected. Shouting, swearing, kicking the glass doors into their cells, overturning what little inside the cell could be overturned, mostly just the mattress, although Raph had a good go at trying to detach the cot from its housing, and otherwise vindicating the sponsor's decision to keep them separate. They had the contents of the NHS pamphlet read to them and eventually succumbed to the exhaustion of rage, alternately sleeping, Ollie, and sitting on the cot rocking back and forth, Raph. Will had been different. The now familiar disbelief gave way very quickly into something that was quite disturbed the sponsors who hadn't been present for it, and they watched the footage in silence. It was as if Will had been switched off. He went completely quiet and absolutely still, not even reacting when Tabby told him an orchiectomy would be scheduled for some time in the next few months. She eventually resorted to describing for him what an orchi is and how it's done, in the apparent hope it will get some kind of reaction out of him. Nothing. From the overhead camera angle, Steph had been reminded of Martin, but Tabby, narrating, switched to the head-on angle, in which Will's face was just about visible, demonstrating nothing like Martin's placid, dead-eyed acceptance. Will was despairing. He remained silent, ignored them when they came by to check on him later, and, aside from silently climbing into the cuffs so they could open the door to leave him food, barely moved the rest of the day. Tabby loaded a video file, audio gain cranked all the way up, and played for the assembled sponsors, and the only thing Will said for the rest of the entire day, a whisper so quiet that Tabby could barely heard it in person. It's not fair. Even Adam had asked questions. Oh, hey, Pippa says, Head voice. Shit. The reminder is useful. 21 years of not really caring how she sounded, except to make sure that as few people as possible had the opportunity to hear her, is a great deal of inertia to overcome in just a couple days. Steph ahs and hums and gets herself back into the zone. Want to make this a practice session? Pippa says. We've still got some stuff to go over with your treatment plan, and talking is better practice than anything else. Sure. Okay, Pippa throws down her phone in the bed next to Steph with the recording app already running. Let's talk about electrolysis. Oh, God, Steph says. She's heard horror stories. First off, at Dorley, it's not quite as bad as you've heard. It takes quite a long time for most trans women because scheduling it can be difficult and long sessions are costly and painful, but you don't have to work, and money isn't an issue. That still is painful, though. It's not as bad as all that. We can load you up with painkillers and apply numbing cream, but there is an unavoidable downside we can't really mitigate. Steph laughs. Of course there is. Go on. Growing your hair out before the session and caring for your swollen, itchy face after for it. Fabulous, Steph says. They discuss the arrangements. Steph wants to start sooner rather than later, so Pippa texts the girl who does the sessions. Dorley graduate, naturally, and she agrees to visit London next week for a consultation. Like everyone else, she's intrigued by the idea of a trans girl at Dorley, and Pippa relays. She's looking forward to not having someone strapped down right from the start. Steph, unfortunately, will have to avoid shaving 3 days beforehand, and she grudgingly makes a note in her calendar. As for the boys, Aaron, if it comes up, she'll tell the truth. Electrolysis is both inevitable and uncomfortable, so why not get out of the way as soon as possible? What's it like? Steph asks a while later, as Pippa comes back in with cups of tea. When you start getting back out there. You want to know what it'll be like for you or how it was for me? For you. Pippa sips her tea and thinks. Strange, she says. Incredibly strange. All of us here had our social development curtailed, even reset completely depending on how you think about it. We have the whole second puberty thing to deal with. You know about that. But the strangest thing is learning how to be a normal person. Learning how to talk to normal people. That's part of why we encourage our girls to go back to school here. You get to mingle with all kinds. It helps if you have a frame of reference that's not completely limited to Dorley Hall because, well, we're all a bit weird. Steph laughs. God, I can't imagine the bravery it takes to step out of that door for the first time. Hard enough for me, and I want this. Don't forget, Pippa says, by the time we take that step, we want it too, she frowns. Or we've accepted it, at least. She sits back in a chair and looks out the window. Sometimes I think we have more in common than I originally thought. You and me. You and all of us. Like most of us were pretty effing miserable as kids for one reason or another. It's literally on the list of things we look for. And then we come here and suddenly we have to adjust to our futures becoming something very, very different to what we expected. Steph shrugs. That doesn't sound too far off, she says, and she grins at herself. There was a time when she might have found the comparison offensive. Do you ever feel like you never got to be a teenager, Pippa says. Properly, I mean. Not like a bad decisions teenager on TV, but just a kid who had friends and hung out and did stupid stuff. I never did any of that. Then I came here, lost 3 years of my life, and now I'm a girl, and I'm old. I'm surrounded by transsexual wine mums. You're old, Steph says, incredulous. Aren't you like a year older than I am? Yeah, but... She slumps in her chair. I suppose I just wish this all could have happened in time for me to really be a kid. Restarting your whole life as an adult effing sucks. Sometimes I watch those shows, and I get upset that I didn't get to go to school as Pippa. Steph sits up and reaches out for her hands. When I'm done, she says, when I'm ready, let's go out and do stupid shit together. Let's be teenagers. She absorbs Pippa's broad smile, and she suddenly can't be imagined being anyone but here. It's like she's supposed to be here, like she has a place here. She needs their help, sure, but it's more than that. Pippa needs a sister. Aaron needs a friend. The sponsors need her perspective. The boys need an example. And she can do all of that while remaining herself, while becoming herself. Like Pippa, it's easy for Steph to feel like she never got to be a kid. Always too busy performing the boy around her that everyone expected her to see. Here, though, she fits in without even trying, without even having to change a thing. Figuratively speaking. They make plans after that. Pippa pulls out a laptop from the desk drawer and calls up maps of the university in Armsworth and decide on their future excursions. To the student union bar, to the library and the cafes and all the places on campus and from which to see the sights. To the club on Armsworth where Christine and Paige got back together, and farther, to London. Pippa's always wanted to visit the Natural History Museum. Steph's phone eventually interrupts them. She puts the call on speaker. It's Christine. Hey, Steph, got a favor to ask. You know Vicky, right? You know of her, at least. Yeah, sure. Well, her girlfriend's here, and she's getting read into the whole Dorley thing, and I think she could really benefit from your perspective. What do you mean, read in? I think the meaning of read in is obvious, Steph. She means, an unfamiliar voice says, that she's told me the most completely insane story I've ever heard, and I only have half believe it. She thinks you, whoever you are, can sell me on the other half. Yeah, Christine says. So come quickly, please. I think she's ready to jump out the window and come back with napalm. To be clear, Steph says, she didn't know that about Dorley, and now she knows. Yes. No, Pippa says. No way, Christine! Wait, can Lorna hear me? What am I, stupid? No. Lorna's nice and all, but she's an outsider. I don't want to put her in front of an outsider yet. You're not her sponsor anymore. No, but I am her advocate. Okay, but Lorna's not an outsider. She's Vicky's girlfriend. Who Stephanie hasn't even met yet? Stephanie? I'm trying it out, Steph says. And she might be slightly volatile, Pippa finishes. You're not volatile, are you? Lorna, Christine asks. Didn't I just sign something that says I'm not allowed to be volatile? Says the other voice. Lorna says. She's not volatile, she's not an outsider, and she is a trans girl. She's safe. Steph, looking sideways at Pippa, shrugs. She's still not entirely clear what's going on, but if she can help Christine, she wants to. She owes her that much. Okay, Pippa says, but I'm coming with. Whatever she expected, this is worse. Lorna still suspects Christine of lying, of covering up something terrible with something also terrible, but ridiculous, farcical, unworkable, insulting. It's like she went online, read a fiction summary from the sorts of websites Lorna visited before she came out to herself, and regurgitated it verbatim. But why would she? If this is a lie, and at least some of it has to be, why invent such an outrageous story? Besides, if Lorna likes to think she knows Christine, at least a little, and she'd never seemed like the sort of person who would spin a transition as punishment yarn in the presence of an actual trans woman. And she told her story, her history, with such conviction. It's a stupid lie, or it's the truth. Lorna taps her mug with a nail. The surface of the tea responds to every strike, and she watches it, momentarily transfixed by the interaction that ripples, wondering again if she should have followed her passion, gone to study physics. But if she hadn't chosen psychology, hadn't chosen saints, she never would have met Vicky. Christine, she says, this is ridiculous. And it's monstrous. The story you've told me, I should be calling the... Fuck, no, not the police, but I don't know, someone. You want to believe you and Vicky are part of some kidnapping ring? I don't know, I can't believe you. Christine frowns. You sound just like someone else I know. Actually, I know who can help you get a handle on this. She holds up a finger, and with her other hand, she scrolls down the contact list on her phone. Just hold that thought, the one about this being ridiculous and monstrous. She hits a call, and before she holds the phone up to ears, she adds, I agree, by the way. And then she's on the call. Hey, Steph, got a favor to ask. You know Vicky, right? Know of her, at least. So on, so on. She rolls her eyes again, smiles at Lorna. I think the meaning of read in is obvious, Steph. Christine covers the microphone with a thumb and whispers, newbies. Lorna indulges her frustration. She leans across the table, pushes her voice to the front of her mouth, her phone voice, her public speaking voice, and says, she means she's told me the most completely insane story I've ever heard, and I only half believe it. She thinks that you, whoever you are, can sell me on the other half. Yes, so come quickly, please. I think she's about ready to jump out the window and come back with napalm. Yes, what am I, stupid? No, she mouths. Sorry, Lorna shrugs. You're not her sponsor anymore. Okay, but Lorna's not an outsider. She's Vicky's girlfriend. Lorna sits back in a chair, unsure as to whether or not she wants to relinquish her outsider status. Fuck, she signed a stupid NDA thing, didn't she? Stephanie, Christine says, in the manner of a stockbroker asking, how many billions am I up? She gives Lorna a thumbs up, obviously realizes how baffling that must be, and says, you're not volatile, are you, Lorna? Didn't I sign something that says I'm not allowed to be? Her mum would kill her for being such a bitch, but she'd kill her for being a bitch first, so screw her. See, she's not volatile, and she's not an outsider, and she's a trans girl. She's safe. Okay, good, see you in a minute. She puts the phone back on the table. They're on the way. I'm safe, am I? Or Lorna says acidly. Yeah, I think so. I'm fairly sure you're not going to attack me. No. And you have literally no way out of here without one of us, so Christine shrugs theatrically. What do you mean, no way out of here? Christine tries to run her hand through her hair, fails, and irritably tugs at her ponytail. freeing her hair to be messed with again. Sheepishly, she passes the hair tie back across the table. Lorna slips it over her wrists and raises an expectant eyebrow. It goes with the whole kidnapping thing, Christine says. You saw the locks on our bedroom doors, right? And on the kitchen door? We have a portion of the third floor and all of the second down to ground locked down. Biometrically linked network locks. A few taps on my phone, I could open every lock on the loop and you could walk straight out. But you won't do that. I will, as soon as I know you're not a danger to us, to the program, to me, to Vicky. I would never put Vicky in danger. She's a product of this place, Lorna. Her safety depends on our secrecy. Lorna looks at her for a second, then stands, walks into the sink and washes her face with cold water. It might mess up her makeup, but she almost laughs. She could probably borrow something from Christine before she goes. Right now, she needs to be alert. She feels disconcertingly like she did that time she got kicked in the head. She turns around and leans on the wall by the window, in time to see Christine putting her phone down again. I like you a lot, Christine, but I can't believe you about this. Will you believe Vicky? Yes, good, because she just texted asking if I'd seen you. I said you're here. She's worried, Lorna. Lorna kicks her foot against the back wall. I'm worried, she yells. I'm fucking terrified, Christine. It just keeps getting worse and worse. And for fuck's sake, you too? Pippa, poking her head into the room, says. Afraid so. Jesus, this is looking less and less like a bad taste joke at my expense. She steps into the room, leading another girl. No, a boy. No, a girl, Lorna decides, taking in the girl's presentation. She looks in transition. A couple months of hormone therapy at the most. Pretty, also definitely rather nervous. I know the exact feeling, the girl says. Oh my god, Lorna mutters. As Pippa and the girl find seats at the kitchen table, the girl pulls legs up under herself and sits cross-legged, arms folded in front of her, taking some of her weight. You really are doing it, aren't you? If there's someone here who reads like a trans girl early in transition, and Christine's been telling the whole unvarnished truth, there's only one possible explanation. Hey, you, kidnap person. I don't know your name, but say the word, I'll get you out of here, right? Somehow. How nostalgic, the girl comments, mostly to herself. You're Lorna, right? Lorna nods. I'm Stephanie, actually, trying it out. You're trying out a girl's name? They're making you do that? Christine, Stephanie says, looking sideways. Did you tell her anything about me? Christine, pursing her lips, shakes her head. She's disbelieving everything else I said. I thought I had her convinced, but she kept walking it back, so I decided it'd be better coming from you and then from Vicky when she gets here. I haven't met her, have I? Vicky? No, but you'll like her. She's a sweetheart, although probably somewhat preoccupied at the moment. They both look up at Lorna. What's going on? Lorna says. Lorna's going to keep thinking of her that way until a better option presents itself, perhaps during an escape attempt, leans on her wrists and says, assuming Christine's told you the whole story, I've told her most of it, then you know they scoop up new batches of bad boys at the beginning of every academic year, yes? Lorna nods. Christine doesn't say when they kidnap the men, only that they do on a regular cadence. I got wind of this practice and what it does, actually, she says, looking down at the table and smiling. I was mostly right about what they do, but incredibly wrong about who they do it to. I got myself kidnapped. What? Lorna says. She's a volunteer, Christine says. What? Lorna says. It's true, Pippa says. I'm trans, Stephanie says, smiling. You're a trans girl, Lorna says. This, at least, is a comforting point of familiarity in an increasingly insane world. Yes. As in, I was assigned male at birth. I hated it. More or less gave up my life after my 21st birthday, and you didn't tell me that. What do you mean? Christine takes Pippa's hand and squeezes it, and Lorna frowns. If this is all true, it makes Christine and Pippa both complicit, and she's friends with them? I mean, Stephanie says, that I decided transition was a pointless dream. She laughs cynically, too manly for it to work out for me. I was going to try and live as Stefan forever. That's why I went to that party in the first place. That's how I met Christine. I was trying to be a normal guy. And normal guys go to parties when their housemates invite them. So yeah, sure, as far as plans go, it sucked, I know. But I couldn't have kept it up for more than a few weeks. And then I don't know what I would have done. Fortunately for me, I didn't have to find out. Yeah, Pippa says slowly. Fortunately for you, you came here and I put you in a cell. And Stephanie shushes her, rubs her hand, and whispers something Lorna can't make out. It ends with Pippa and Stephanie hugging each other awkwardly, and Stephanie complaining about poking herself in the tit with a corner of the kitchen table. "Where were we?" she says, rubbing herself carefully. "I was about to ask you how you could possibly accept this place," Lorna says. The girl shrugs. "The boys down there, some of them are vile. One guy, Declan, attacked me and Aaron. Aaron? He's a guy that's down there right now." "Forget Declan then," Lorna says, seizing on Stephanie's suddenly downcast expression. "How do you feel about him?" "None of your business," Stephanie says, quickly and sharply. Lorna notes her blush. "No, how do you feel about them transitioning him?" She sighs. "I'm pretty fucked up about it, to tell you the truth." She looks away from Christine and Pippa, the sponsors, Christine said, and bites her lip. "It used to be that I didn't want him to change, the way that everyone else wants him to. And whatever I said, people would tell me, oh, we have data, oh, we have experience, and he'll benefit in the long run. And then they always point to themselves as an example, and I've never known how to argue against that." She holds up both hands, palms flat like plates on an old-fashioned scale. "It's wrong versus it works." She mimes tipping the scale this way and that, coming to rest roughly even. Christine reaches out and pulls one of her hands down. Stephanie laughs and shoves gently at her. "But I know he needs to reform, somehow. And especially to spend more time with Pip and Christine than all the others, I'm starting to see this future laid out for him, you know? In theory, I object to what this place does, but it's become a mechanical objection. Like my morning routine. Get up, brush teeth, object to the program, participate in it anyway. Did she tell you everyone here went through it? Not in so many words. Everyone. Beatrice, Maria, the ones who are in charge. Although her face firms, they didn't exactly go through the same thing as Christine or Pip. Even though it wasn't just plain tired of staking out my position. You try living with a bunch of girls who got cured of toxic masculinity and tell them it can't be done." Lorna's got her own thoughts about that. Although nothing so severe as kidnapping boys and forcibly changing them, hers have gone in more of a PowerPoint direction. "It's rehab," says Pippa suddenly. What she doesn't like telling you, because she's too close to us, is that all of us were dangerous. All of us had the potential to hurt people, or we were extremely likely to do so. And Stephanie, she smiles at her friend, "I know you worry about my lost potential, about what the old me might have become. I promise you, he would have just got more bitter and more angry. As much as the methods have left their mark on me, that mark is fading. In exchange, I got a life, Steph. Trying to turn Pippa, to turn me back into him would at this point be more injurious to my psyche, to my well-being, than becoming Pippa was in the first place." Lorna's legs feel weak. "This is madness." "I know how you feel," Lorna says. Stephanie says, standing and taking a few steps towards her. "When I came here 7 weeks ago, I thought I'd found a place that helped trans people who had escaped toxic families." Another step. "And I shouted. I protested. I said it was awful. I even questioned Christine's gender right to her face. I still think about that." "It's okay," Christine says right behind her. Stephanie briefly looks back. "I'll always think about that." And she's advancing on Lorna again. "But that guy I mentioned? Declan? Rapist. Manipulator. He'd made himself into a trap that some poor woman kept willingly walk back into until Dorley took him away. And he was actually beyond the pale. He's gone now." "Gone," Lorna says. "Gone. But the others are still here, and all of them are better in here than out there. I've read all the files. Ollie, constantly getting into fights, married his teenage sweetheart because bad news for her, he hit her a lot. Got in our radar when he hit her so hard her head bounced off the bar." Stephanie, Christine mouths, "Our radar," to Pippa, who shrugs. "Raph, another guy who just seems to get off on controlling and hurting women. Will," she frowns when she says his name. "When his brother came out, he beat him into hospital. Martin killed someone driving while drunk. And then there's Aaron, your friend, my friend. He's sweet and he's clever, and he's actually quite shy under all the babbling and bluster, but he's sexually harassed a lot of women. So many, I still can't quite believe it. And his rich family shielded him from the consequences." "Stephanie," Christine says, wearing disbelief on her face, "I look away for 5 minutes and you become a true believer." Stephanie leans against the wall next to Lorna. I'm not a true believer, she says, voice crackling. She swallows and concentrates for a second, then continues in a clearer tone. If I had my way, well, I don't know what I'd do. I wouldn't release the boys because you'd all get arrested and your faces and mine would be all over the internet. It would end our lives, basically. And I wouldn't get the transition. She looks at Lorna. Yes, I know, I'm selfish, but we wouldn't take anyone else. If I had my way, this year would be the last one. Lorna can't seem to stop shaking. I don't get how this isn't just a fucked up punishment, she says. You're taking those men, yes, terrible people, I get it, and inflicting lifelong dysphoria on them. I don't get how you can go along with that, Stephanie. Ask me about my dysphoria, Lorna, Christine says, but she doesn't give her time to ask anything. I'm fine. We all are. I'm not saying it's not an adjustment. The heck of an adjustment, Pippa mutters. But I'm not clawing at my skin trying to get out of my bodies. In many ways, I like it more than I used to. And not just because I exercise now. You exercise, Pippa says, as Christine suggested she can fly. Before Christine can reply, a loud yawn comes from the corridor. Paige follows it in, and Lorna hides her groan. Vicky's entire friend group lives here, and they're all... She can't even think to herself. Stephanie said she once misgendered Christine, and Lorna realizes how wrong that concept is. She can't imagine Christine or Pippa as boys because it needs, especially because it leads inevitably to the conclusion that Vicky was one too. Oh, Vicky. What's the racket, Paige says, blinking rapidly to chase the sleep out of her eyes. I'm charging all of you bitches serious money for waking me up in the morning my lecture got cancelled. Oh, hey, Stephanie. Pippa and Christine stay out in unison. Trying it out, Stephanie says. I like it, Paige says. And you look great. And, Lorna? Hello? Lorna brushes her hair out of her face and sighs. Hi, Paige. Paige looks around the room. What don't I know? She asks. Had to tell her everything, babe, Christine says. You want some coffee? I'll make it. Paige fetches a cafetiere down from a shelf and starts filling it with coffee while she waits for the kettle to boil. Everything about Vicky or... Everything, Christine says, including, yes, Lorna says, I know why you're all here. Paige drops the spoon heavily into the sink. Well, ignorance was bloody bit bliss for a while, she whispers. Christine stands up and hugs her from behind, resting her forehead against Paige's back. The thing about us, Pippa says, is we're not who we were. We all made a choice to change. Paige snorts. Not Vicky, she half turns her head. Lorna's almost alarmed to see tears in her eyes. The thing you should know about Vicky, Lorna, is that she's not like us. Like Pippa said, we all made the choice to be women, you know now, but Vicky was always a girl. She turns all the way around and practically picks up Christine to position her more favorably, head to Paige's bosom. She encircles her with her arms, protecting her from what? Oh, Lorna realizes. From me. I'm the threat. I'm the thing that came into their lives, demanding answers to questions that hurt them. Tears in Paige's eyes still, that she put there. She latches onto the last thing that Paige said. What do you mean about Vicky? I mean, she didn't learn to be a girl like I did, and she didn't embrace it like Christine. One day, down there, early on, like she woke up from a bad dream. It's like she was just Vicky. Once again, Lorna's legs feel weak, and this time she acts sensibly, pulling in a chair and sitting heavily on it before she falls. What are you saying? Vicky's a trans woman? No, Christine says. Yes, Paige says at the same time. She's blinked away all the tears now, but she looks vulnerable. And when she speaks, she's more hesitant than usual. I've been thinking about this ever since Stephanie came out. There are ways in which trans woman is the most appropriate descriptor for all of us here, and there are ways in which it's inappropriate. My womanhood, no matter how accustomed to it I am, was coerced, but Vicky's wasn't. She's always insisted she's not trans, Christine says, turning around in Paige's arms to face out into the kitchen again. She always says she had no dysphoria, no eggy feelings or anything, and I've tried to respect that. You made fun of her for it. Yes, but you showed her all those egg memes, and she didn't find them relatable. I think she would have, she let herself think. But I also think that a subreddit is not a diagnostic tool. Yes, Lorna, I think she's trans, like Stephanie is, like you are. She might have lasted another 5 years, maybe even 10. Maybe even decades if she put herself very deep into denial, but I think she would have died by her own hands or lived to be a woman. The program simply found it inside of her, ahead of schedule. Paige, I don't, Christine says, but Lorna can't stop herself. You really think that? She doesn't know why it's important, but it is. If Vicky's trans in the way that she is, then does any of this really matter? Vicky as a boy transitioned against his will? That makes no sense. But if she was always a girl, she's trans, like Lorna, that changes the nature of all of it. That makes all the lies she was forced to tell like the lies Lorna's told herself, the ones imposed on both of them to make them both boys against their will. If Vicky's like her, and the image Paige conjured of Vicky dead by her own hand is not one she'll ever forget. Yeah. Lorna laughs. It's a bitter, broken release of tension that threatens to come in a crying fit, so she hugs herself and bites the inside of her cheek for a second. You mean to tell me, she says slowly when she has herself under her control, that I have to tolerate this abattoir because it cracked my girlfriend's egg? Yes, that's the position you're in. I'm sorry. And Paige does look sorry, almost haunted, forcing Lorna for the first time to wonder what it's like to come out on the other side of the blood-stained program's coerced regendering and face life again. There are no good options for you, Lorna. Only compromises. You can't hurt this place without hurting... Lorna's blood runs cold. She turns slowly in her chair and she's there, standing in the entryway, her girlfriend. Hey, Lorna, someone said you're up here, and Vicky starts, still out of breath, and she looks at Lorna, absorbs the tension in the room. Oh no, oh God, Christine, what have you done? Still unsteady, Lorna makes a couple of paces to the door without issue. She takes Vicky's hand in hers and looks carefully, unflinching into her eyes. They're at level with each other. Vicky was always tall, something else that suddenly makes sense, and Lorna punctuates her silent reassurance with a kiss. Hi, sweetheart, she says. What's going on? Vicky whispers. They told me everything. And the weight in her arms increases for a second as Vicky overbalances, almost falls, and has to steady herself against the door frame. Lorna, Vicky says. Oh God, Angel, I'm so sorry. She starts babbling, and the words coming out of her mouth with tears as she buries her head on Lorna's shoulder. I'm so sorry. You shouldn't have to be a part of this. All this endless fucking bullshit. You're too good for this place. You're too good for me. You should run. You should get far away. You should forget about me and saints and fuck. I'm so sorry I dragged you into this. Lorna shushes her, strokes her between the shoulders, and accepts from Paige a guiding hand, leading them into the privacy of one of the bedrooms and shutting the door behind them. On the bed together, she whispers to her lover that she's glad she finally knows all her secrets. And maybe it's time she told some too. They give them some time alone while they share a plate of snacks, courtesy of Indira, and talk amongst themselves. Steph's had time to think about what it means to her to finally meet another trans girl and then immediately try to persuade her of the relative merits of the kidnapping ring with whom she has thrown in her lot. And that's a scary enough thought that she welcomes Christine, Pippa, and Paige's distractions. Shoot, Pippa says, interrupting Paige's story about Christine's first time in high heels. It's almost 3. Sorry, Stephanie, I have a tutorial. It's fine, Steph says, pushing back from a chair and stretching. Need it change? No, but I need my laptop. Come upstairs with me? To the 3rd floor. 4th, actually. Steph hesitates. There's non-Dorley people up there, right? Ordinary people who have never been in a basement except to look for the plastic Christmas tree, and she's... No, screw it. She's Stephanie today, and she suddenly decides Stephanie is confident. Stephanie takes risks. Stephanie goes places like 4th floors that Steph would fear to tread. How do I look, she asks. Lovely, Pippa says. Beautiful, Christine says. She turns to the last girl. Paige, she says. How do I look? You look great, Paige says. And also like you're early in transition, but I don't think you'll be recognized. You were in your 3rd year, and no one upstairs shared a class with you before. The non-program residents usually move on after their 1st or 2nd years. And it might be good for people to start seeing you as Pippa's friend. It'll give you more freedom to move around the dorms. Assuming you want to be trans as part of your MPH, Christine says. Steph doesn't have time to ask. New personal history. We all have to decide if we're going to be cis girls out in the world or trans girls. Being a trans girl is not optional if you don't get bottom surgery, but if you do, it's open season. I am a trans girl, Steph says. And funny she likes saying it. Likes claiming it. Likes the feel of it. Lorna's a trans girl too, and so is Vicky, if Paige is right. And from what Christine says she generally is, that's good company to keep. So that's probably fine. Come on then. Pippa takes up Steph by the hand and leads her out of the kitchen, back through the corridor. Steph tries to open the stairwell with her thumbprint just out of the novelty of it, but doesn't let her through. Pippa nudges her aside and unlocks the door. I'll ask you to be added to these doors, she says, as they start heading up. All the doors. It's ridiculous for you to have, half access. The fourth floor isn't like the first or second, which are arranged around the long single corridor that threads through the building, like the Snake game on an emergency phone back home. And they're not full of unused rooms either. She and Pippa walk out into the large common area, organized around a handful of sofas and a TV, connected up to a PlayStation and what looks to Steph's uneducated eyes like a 90s Nintendo console, which leads off to a large open-plan kitchen dining area on one side. On the other side, regularly spaced doors suggest bedrooms, and twin corridors extend down from the common area, leading to two more rooms. Wow, Steph says, and she's glad she kept her head voice up because two people are playing a vintage video game. Star Wars racing. They turn her on the sofa and smile at her. Hey, Pip, one of them says, just waving. Hey, Nalia, Pippa says. Can you keep my friend company for a minute? I got class, I need to grab my stuff. Stephanie, this is Nalia and they're Ren. Visiting from the fifth floor from what I can only assume are nefarious reasons. How dare you, Ren says. Hi, Steph says, waving back, noting the pronoun that Pippa used. She adds, she, her. Ditto, Nalia says. You want to play? Does it matter if I'm terrible? It's preferable, Ren says, waving her down into the couch and handing her the oddest-looking game controller Steph's ever seen. They talk her through selecting a pilot, and despite the fuzzy graphics, Steph recognizes some of the designs. Is this a Phantom Menace game? This is where the fun begins, Ren says, and Nalia hits them. That's from episode 2, she says. Actually, Ren says, it's from episode 3. It's relaxing playing the game, chatting, joking, and apparently being instantly accepted as a woman, as who she is. It's not hard to think of it as another gift from Dorley, one she will have to pay back, which she has chosen to pay back by returning to the cold, depressing concrete basement and performing boy. But what if, for Aaron and the others? Pippa taps her on the head a few minutes later, and Steph lets herself get dragged up from the sofa. She hands back from the controller before she gets her legs tangled in the cord, and Nalia and Ren resume playing against each other. What are you two doing down here anyway? Pippa asks before they leave. Came to see a friend, Ren says, but they weren't in. Nalia says, and you guys have an N64 and a load of free crisps in the cupboard. Nalia indicates the decimated foil bags on the table. Someone has to pay for those, you know, Pippa says, and she slings her laptop bag over her shoulder and leads Steph out to the stairwell. She closes the door and quickly checks around them before speaking again. So, how'd you find it? What? Steph says. Pod racing. She laughs. No, just hanging out. Just teasing. It was nice, actually. Just that. Pippa hops down a few steps so she can turn back up and stare at Steph. Just nice. Steph briefly sticks her tongue out. Okay, fine. Better than nice. Like a preview of what it's going to be like when I'm a girl. When I look more like a girl on the outside, more like the girl I am on the inside. Better? Pippa snorts. Paige would say you're a very binary thinker, Steph. Steph takes the last stairs down into the hallway and two at a time. And what would you say? I'd say I get it, Pippa says, and she wags a finger. Which I shouldn't because I'm me and you're you, so, think about it. Don't have time to think about it, she says. Gonna be a girl whatever happens. Pippa swipes at her, but Steph intercepts her hand and hugs her instead. Have a good tutorial, she says. I will, Pippa sings, and she waves and kicks the main doors open and marches off into campus. Steph's almost tempted to follow her, to add to the euphoria of being treated in absolutely mundane and ordinary fashion by two complete strangers going on out there and finding other people to gender her correctly, but she turns on her heel instead and jogs back up the stairs. On the second floor, she has to knock to be let back in. Christine opens the door for her, and Steph follows her to where Paige is standing outside one of the bedrooms, struggling with whether to enter. They're still in there, Steph whispers. The other two both nod. You want to check on them? We're not sure, Paige says. Lorna might throw things, Christine says. That's Vicky's room. Nothing in there to throw but my clothes. And some decomposing kitchen detritus, Christine says. There might be forks. Maybe we should tell her we can probably get a free bottom surgery now? Bribes are unethical, Paige. Steph pushes past them. Cowards, she says with a grin. Lorna, Vicky, it's Stephanie, and the other two. Other two, Christine mouths at her. You can come in, someone says through the door. Paige lets them in, and there they are, Lorna and Vicky wrapped around each other on the bed, with a pile of clothes shoved roughly off onto the floor, which Paige immediately picks up and sorts through, red-eyed and so tightly entwined they're almost one person. Hi, Steph. Hi, says Steph. Hey, Lorna says, reluctantly disentangling herself from Vicky and getting to a cross-legged position on the end of the bed. So, Paige says, you're both fully debriefed? Lorna nods. Almost, Vicky says. She wouldn't let me tell her my old. You don't know mine, Lorna says, and I don't want to know yours. From what you were telling me, from what you said, Vicky was always kind of sort of in waiting. The girl in hiding, the bad stuff, the things she did, that was her beating on the walls of her prison. Apt, Christine whispers. Still can't believe you're accepting this, Vicky says. I'm accepting you, Lorna says. You're my Victoria. You're my girl. And I'm fucking glad to know you, at last. To see behind all the secrets they made you keep. She turns a fiery finger on Christine. You lot nearly fucked up a perfectly good trans girl, you know. Christine holds up her hands. Not guilty, she says. We were in the same intake. I couldn't fuck her up. I was catatonic because they took me away one day and castrated me. Oh, Lorna says, covering her mouth. Shit, sorry. That's okay, I'm mostly over it. That's the other side of the coin, Paige says, pulling over a stool and arranging herself on it. Whatever you think of us, like the rest of us, that is, you have to remember that we were all remade here. All of us, and the scars are worse for some of us than others. What she's saying is, be kind to us. We're new. Lorna leans forward, cupping her chin in her hands. I still think this place can't work. That it shouldn't work. Christine shrugs. We put a lot of work into making sure we only take people we think can make the adjustment. Some people can't change, and we don't try to make them. And some people have to, Steph says and giggles. Lorna looks affronted. So Steph swallows and coughs to drown out the laughter that still has to come out. Sorry, she says to Lorna. I'm still riding kind of a high. But also, I think I want to make a point, if that's okay. I just went up to floor 4 with Pippa, played old video games, and a couple called Ren and Nalia. Oh, Christine says. How are they? Good. I stole a bunch of their food. And it was just so normal, you know? Just me, as me, playing a video game with the people I just met, and they just... I was Stephanie. I wasn't Stefan, the guy who hangs around with Melissa or Mark or whatever, and I wasn't Steph, the trans girl pretending to be a guy in the basement down there. I wasn't even Steph, the girl you lot just know, and I was just me. She hiccups and her throat tightens. This is more difficult than she expected to talk about. It was something I've never had before, and it's so fucking random. And now I'm thinking, she continues slowly, mind racing, that it's not just Dorley that gave me that experience. All those guys down there are going to have it too. Lorna, you haven't even met them, and I guess neither of you, Vicky, although I'm sure you know what sort of people come through here. Vicky nods. Those boys have been living poisoned lives, and yes, I'm sure most of them poison themselves, but they've barely got an unfucked up relationship between them, familial or otherwise. They're all of them eventually going to get to do what I just did. They're going to sit down on a sofa and play Nintendo games with complete strangers. It's going to be one of the first truly normal things in their whole lives. They need that. She shrugs, surprised by her own vehemence. I want them to have it. They might have been hurt differently to me, but here the cure is basically the same. Just a bit more bitter for them. God, Christine says. You were so fucking Dorley pilled. And I remember you used to call me that. If you can't beat them. If I can make a request, Lorna says, shuffling back across the bed and putting her arm around her girlfriend. Don't try and sell me on this place anymore, okay? Not for now. Anyway, I don't know. Maybe I'll get like Stephanie here and see the sunny side of a bit of light torture, but probably not. She squeezes Vicky around the shoulders. But she's my Victoria. I came here thinking this place hurt her, and yes, it very much did so. It really fucking did, Vicky says. But it seems like it found her as well. It brought her to me. I'll keep your secrets. Just promise me? What? The boys, the ones down there, they're gonna be okay? Lorna, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure they're okay. Aaron? Erin? Ellen? Karen? He's run through every variation in his head, every cutesy modification of his name to make it into something appropriate to what they want him to become. He asked someone for better ideas, but he doesn't know who he'd even ask anymore. And he knows no one has anything suitable. Alien names, all of them, names for a version of him who was never created. No, names for the person who will succeed him. God, he wishes he could turn off that stupid light, the one above his bed that does nothing but slice day from night and deny him true darkness, like he's a child that needs a nightlight, like he's an animal that needs constant supervision. Well, doesn't he? Didn't he tell Steph his whole plan? Passive-aggressive resistance, emphasis on the aggressive? Fucker's probably told Indira by now, or Pippa. They've shared Aaron's secrets like they shared everything else, giggled over it, made it part of whatever weird bond they have, the one that Aaron can't work out if it's between lovers or a brother or a sister, a bond he aches for, the ones he wants to reach out and snap whenever he sees them together, wants to twist it and use them against them if only he could find a way. A bond he once felt was within reach, but still, he's good and fucked that now, hasn't he? Steph offered you closeness and you threw it back at him, didn't you? Who gives a fuck that he scared you? Because now he's gone. It's too much like it always is. Too much like part of the pattern. He arrives somewhere and he misbehaves because what the fuck else is he going to do? And then they hurt him. Whoever they are differs every time, as does the manner of it, but it doesn't matter. It never matters. All that matters is that he, Aaron, fucked up again, and now he's paying the price, and now he's sanitizing it. He knows he is. He keeps thinking of Steph's face as he watched the names and dates scroll past the screen in the common room. His horror had been obvious. Narrow escape for you, mate. You almost got close to this. Monica's voice stays with him too, dispassionately evaluating his future along with the past, the harm he would inevitably cause. And wouldn't he just love to argue? Wouldn't he just love to throw it back in her face like he tried to do with the accusation about the abuse he suffered? But all he'd had were insults and anger, and in the time since he's not come up with anything better. Who even cares if she's right? She feels right, and that's the worst thing. Maybe he wouldn't have continued to spiral, continued to lash out, continued to hurt people, women, over and over, because he could and because he always got away with it, and because it was a little glimmer of power in a life bereft of it. Maybe he would have grown the fuck up, like his disappointed mother always wished. Maybe without this place, he would have become someone worthy of something. Anything. He laughs. What a fantasy. The other reality, the one Monica painted in the common room, the one she repaints every time he lets himself dream, the one she claims they're saving him from, that's the one that feels real. It's all too easy to look in the future and see Aaron, 30 years old, setting into a sinecure thanks to his father's residual contacts, some pointless position where he does nothing of use and experiences nothing, and nothing he'll ever remember except the slap of his hand on a secretary's ass, a piece of insectoid superiority to get him through the day. Maybe one day he'll fuck her. Aaron hits himself again, open palm, nothing too flashy, right in the cheek. He hopes it'll leave a mark, and he wants to do it again and again and again, like he's taking revenge for this woman that he imagined, but it's as pointless and as stupid as anything else he's ever done in this room. He sits on his hands instead, presses his weight onto them, holding himself in place. His other self, his older self, his past self, him, always him, hurting people for the smallest amount of unimpeded sensation, like pinching yourself to wake up from a dream, only someone else feels the pain. Stupid. He'll never become that man now, and as he pictures him with his shiny-ass little suit and his unchecked casual cruelty, he's glad of that. He hates him. He wished he could reach into his future and strangle him, beat him, claw at him until he rips him to pieces. He would, in less than a heartbeat. His hands twitch under him. But the other future, Monica's future, Maria's future, Indira's future, the one they're forcing on him with indifferent calculation and undisguised irritation and what feels disconcertingly like love, he doesn't want it either. He rejects it as thoroughly as he rejects every other possible version of himself. He won't be the older man, hurting people. He can't be any kind of man, not anymore. Not if they're telling even the slightest fraction of the truth about their intentions, and he refuses to be what they claim to want. He's looked in the mirror, he's seen the slight, but now he knows what he's looking for, unmistakable signs of estrogen working everywhere through his body, and he's tried to see himself altered to their specifications. Bigger there, rounder here, softer everywhere. Whether he sees a misshapen, ugly creature as he did yesterday or something that could actually be mistaken for a woman as he does today, he rejects the vision entirely. Why not leave him alone? Idiot, you know why. He knows what they see when they look at him. When they open it up, look past the surface, they see a serial sexual harasser. They see a rich boy, graduate of a prestigious private school who walked into a well-regarded university and then proceeded to amuse himself with the expensive women around him, secure in the knowledge that his parents' money can and would make all consequences vanish. Well, rich boy, here's a consequence you can't escape. At last, here's what they see. What does he see when he looks inside himself? If he has to be honest, and he's not sure, and what other choice does he have here in this prison where all directions lead right back to his concrete cell? He's not sure there's anything inside him to find. He's barely a person. He's just a collection of bad habits and poor self-control. But Steph, he acted like it mattered. Like he could see something. Someone there. Someone to care about. Someone to befriend. Someone to, let's fucking say it, Aaron, right here in the near dark. Someone to love. And you broke it. Like you broke everything else. Fuck it. Fuck him. You're my reason. Fuck off. Friends don't do that to each other. They don't step over that line no matter what. Send him away. For good or ill, he's gone and is not coming back. Just like you now, Aaron. Not Aaron for long though now. The funny thing is that now he started thinking about the woman they want to make from him. He almost can't stop. His mind's eye ably lengthens his hair, swells his body in the appropriate places, dresses it in clothes like the girls here wear. The woman wears her hair loose and nails painted and smiles like the world's a joke only she understands. She walks out of here with Steph and the others and doesn't look back. He can see her, but he's not her. She's someone else, someone better and someone new, and for a moment he's happy for her in a way he can't ever imagine being happy for himself. He opens his eyes, embraces the dull light, dispels the image. She's a dream, a fantasy, a person he can't ever become. Maybe it's the idea of the new start he hasn't earned. Maybe it's the thought that there's a way out of here that doesn't end in death. Maybe it's the womanhood, the transition. Maybe that's the chasm he can't cross, the thing he can't withstand, the fate he'll fight against with everything he has. Maybe because he knows, more clearly than he's ever known anything, that he doesn't deserve it. End of chapter 20.